We return to Chicago's Legal Latte, and as we always do, gather together with folks from Lavelle Law and other guests to talk about current legal matters, things that may impact you, your home, your family, your business. Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Mitchell, and today we're going to focus on some major changes in the home buying process in the real estate industry. And joining me are Kelly Anderson, of course, a shareholder at Lavelle Law, and Cathy Betourne from Remax Suburban. Both of you, thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to our conversation. And, you know, when people talk about buying and selling a home, they don't do it frequently, but when they do, they know it's a complicated process, but it is changing. So first of all, let's set the stage prior to the change that's coming up. What was the standard established basis for how real estate agents would receive their commissions?
Okay, well, there really wasn't a standard, which is kind of funny that this lawsuit all came up because people wanted more transparency. It was negotiable, and it has always been negotiable. We've always had a listing agreement with our sellers, and we've always negotiated it. We negotiated what we were going to pay a buyer's agent who walked in. So maybe some agents didn't explain it well enough, and people thought they didn't understand that.
Would it normally be paid, the commission to the agents, through the seller? Is that what people perceive to be the case?
Okay, so what I used to tell my clients as buyers when they would come in and ask me, do they owe me something for my services? I would say that the seller will pay me at closing, but you're paying the seller the price of the house. So in a sense, you are also paying the commission, because he wouldn't sell his house to you if he didn't get the number he wanted to put the deal together and pay me.
And Kelly, you've done so many closings. Is this something that sort of always just fell into the mix, that people didn't really pay attention to it?
Yeah, but I have had many clients send me listing agreements so that I can look it over, and it is negotiable. We have gone back before and changed things or proposed changes to commission agreements. So I think, for the novice out there that hasn't been in a real estate transaction before, maybe they didn't know that. Maybe they didn't read the fine print and they didn't consult an attorney beforehand. But this is the way it's always been.
All that being said, now we're talking about this because there's been a new change. There's been an impact that's come across in the industry. Tell me what has happened now that has suddenly made this such a hot topic.
Well, there was the lawsuit brought against the MLSs, some of the brokerages, and the National Association of Realtors, with them wanting more transparency in that and spelling it out a little better.
And what's the outcome of that, Kelly, in terms of that lawsuit? Can you kind of walk us through what it was and what's happened?
There have been many lawsuits. This started way back in 2019 in Illinois, and it was followed by lawsuits in Missouri. There was a federal court case. There's been, still to this day, there are more lawsuits in individual states. But the outcome is there have been various settlements. And as part of these settlements, there are sort of new rules in place about things that go into the MLS. That I think there weren't necessarily rules on that. And Cathy, you might be able to speak to that better. It wasn't as, there weren't as strict guidelines before.
So before we were in the MLS, the listing agent put in there what they were going to pay the buyer's agent. And we couldn't change that or discuss that with them. Whatever they were paying us is what their offer of compensation was. Now we can discuss that because they can put zero in there, and most agents don't want to work for zero.
Understood. Yeah. Now I know there's like any industry, there are organizations that professionals belong to. National Association of Realtors is one that sort of guides people in the industry. Have they been involved in this process?
Absolutely. I've taken a lot of seminars and webinars over the last few months getting ready for this, and it's still evolving. Like Kelly mentioned, there's all these different lawsuits. They're not totally settled. They kind of have verbally approved them, and we're waiting to find out. It's going to be a little bit of a wait and see, but we are already getting ready. My office has had all 11, my brokerage has 11 offices. We all got together. We all talked about the changes coming up, the new ways we have to do the business.
Well, I'd love to hear now from both of you, both from the realtor perspective and the attorney who works in real estate. What does this mean? Is it going to change the process of people buying and selling homes now?
Go ahead, Cathy.
Okay. So I'm thinking that the biggest change for the realtors is we cannot post that compensation in the MLS anymore. So there is none of that in our MLSs, and we've agreed to take that out. So we're just going to have to figure out where we find out, or do we have to call every time we do a showing to find out if we're going to get paid or not? Because we're going to be signing buyer brokerage agreements with people to make sure we do get paid if we don't get paid from the listing side.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I don't know if I'm going to be getting a lot of questions. I think more than anything, I'm going to be having clients reach out to me and ask me, how does this impact me? What do I need to do? Should I be signing this document from the buyers or from my agent? So I don't see it changing things at the end, at the closing, but I do think that I'll be getting a lot more questions ahead of the contract itself.
Cathy Betourne is with Remax Suburban, has been in the real estate industry for almost 4 decades. Kelly Anderson has been a part of these conversations, as she's been with Lavelle Law for a good number of years and a frequent contributor to our podcast. And we're glad to have both with us today. We'll get some information for you from them as to how you can contact them before we let them go today. But we're talking about some major changes in the home buying process today on Chicago's Legal Latte. And you both described, potential changes. Cathy, is this going to benefit anyone? Is it going to hurt anyone, or is it just new?
Okay, so it's going to remain to be seen since we're still in the beginning process of it. I don't really see a big benefit for either side. It's going to create a little more work for the realtors, but that's just part of our business. And I thought it could hurt some buyers that wouldn't have the money if they needed to pay their buyer's agent, plus they needed their down payment, plus they needed their reserves. It's going to put them, in a spot where they might not be able to buy. And I was really worried about the VA buyers because they could not pay us in the past. But just yesterday, the VA lenders came out and said there's going to be a temporary thing where they will be able to, because we have to work all these things out, because it wasn't an issue before and now has become one.
Is this likely to impact the negotiation process now? Is this another layer that you're going to have to go through with buyers and sellers?
It might be. What's going to happen is if the seller isn't willing to pay us, we might have to put in a rider asking for the seller to pay us, because that buyer does have a buyer's agency agreement with us that we get paid, and they don't have the money. But if they offer Mr. Seller enough money for him to want to take that offer, then it's just like any other negotiation. Sometimes we negotiate credits on carpet allowance or whatever. It's just another way to get the deal together.
What about the back end of the deal, Kelly? I know one of the things that happens at closing is the transfer of money, the funds move around. Does this impact that at all, to make sure that whoever is now paying the realtor is that included in the price? Have you thought about that yet?
I mean, it could. It's, a lot of times it depends on the lender too, what the lender is going to allow on a closing statement and how this gets negotiated. If it is the buyer that has to pay this commission, is that going to be factored into their financing? Is their lender going to be okay with that? Or is this going to have to be done outside the closing? And that's, typically not allowed. So it remains to be seen, but it definitely could change things up a little bit.
And Cathy, from a realtor's perspective, you've talked about some of the impact things you'll have to do. Does this impact the price of homes at all? Is this going to be just hidden costs that gets rolled in?
So this is the true question. I think it's going to remain to be seen. It's going to just be how nervous buyers are in coming into this and having to change things up and doing it this way. And we'll see if it becomes something that the buyers are just okay with, or, it is truly remain to be seen on that.
And this,
what are your thoughts, Kelly?
I mean, it does remain to be seen, and I don't know how it's going to impact everything. I wish we had a more clear answer for you. It seems like, there's been all this discussion about this, and it's still a little bit unknown.
Mm-hmm. Kelly, it seems to me that when I talk to any of your colleagues at Lavelle Law, we talk about new laws, new statutes in Illinois. One of the answers I always get is, well, once it rolls out, we're going to find out if it's a good law or not. There's going to be litigation. People are going to challenge it. From an Illinois perspective, do you feel that this is going to take some time to really be settled now in terms of how real estate deals are done in this state?
Yeah, I think with everything, it's going to take a little bit of time, and we're going to have to see how it plays out. I don't think it's going to be clear cut right off the bat, unfortunately.
And Cathy, a question I'll have for you, and it's one you can certainly deflect because I don't know there's an answer to it, but you talked about getting together with your peers, talking about this. Traditionally, I think a real estate agent is happy to work with a client in the area. They welcome new business, they welcome referrals, and you work with people many times over when you've had a good relationship. Are there instances now where you envision a real estate agent saying to a client, "Look, I don't want to work with you because there isn't money in it, or you're not committing to a commission or a payment for us"? I mean, is it something that realtors are going to have to be careful of now?
I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case. I hope most people understand when they go to work, they expect to get paid. Mm-hmm. And I would hope that they understand the amount of time and effort we put into finding them the right house or getting their home sold, and the amount of expenses that we have to get there. And if we explain it properly, I mean, we've always explained it to the sellers, and they were good with it, and they were good with paying us that fee. And I hope the buyers will understand the same thing.
I think most of us agree that there's very few more trusted relationships than finding a good realtor that you can work with, because it's a difficult process. And as I said, so many of us work with an agent time after time because of the work that they have done. So I anticipate that will certainly continue to be the case. All right. We've covered a lot of ground here today, but I know there's more questions and people are going to want some more details. I always want to provide them the opportunity to follow up. So first of all, Cathy, can you share with us a number or email or both that people can reach out to you if they have questions?
Sure. The best number to reach me at is my cell, which is 847-436-1186. And I can be reached via email by Cathy with a C, Cathy, at bsoldteam. That's B as in boy, SOLD team.com.
Then, Kelly, we always share information about Lavelle Law, but what's the best number to ring you at?
Yeah, my direct line is 847-241-1786. And my email, I can be reached at kanderson, ANDERSON, at lavellelaw.com. And that's LAV as in Victor, ELLE law.com.
And as always, I recommend folks stop by lavellelaw.com. A lot of past podcasts, conversations, articles, really one of the great sites for content that people want to spend some time on, and a lot of information there. I always appreciate the folks from Lavelle Law being a part of it. So, Cathy, thank you today. Kelly, great to talk to you again, and we wish you both luck getting through this as it starts to unwind. But thanks very much for being part of the podcast.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.